guys, it's Kristen with Simply a Stewart, and I am back today, I guess kind of with a homeschool video. So I was given the opportunity to be sent this top student book from Evan Moore in exchange for my honest review. So my opinions are my own. They did not pay me in any way. They just sent it to me and said, what do you think of it? And so I got the opportunity to kind of flip through it on my own as well as to flip through it with my daughter. And I will tell you, my daughter is super excited to actually do this book. So, but after I flip through it, I have got some thoughts and I just figured I would flip the camera around and show you guys inside. All right, so here is what the cover looks like. And on the left-hand side here, we can just see that it's listed out what subjects are in it. So we've got STEM, science, computer science. This is social and emotional learning, social studies, and then they're reading, writing, math, grammar, and spelling. So it has just about everything, but it has some of these cool things like computer science, social learning, things that we don't find in a lot of these books. So this makes it a lot different than a lot of the other books that I've seen that kind of are cumulative of all of the subjects, I guess you could say. So when you find those all in one books. If you go to Costco or to the bookstore or whatever, you don't usually see those kinds of subjects added in. And so that was kind of neat. So this is for grade 4. This is available, I believe, up through 6th grade. If you go onto the website, Evan Moore is great about offering a kind of like a look inside of all of their books. They have so many pages, sample pages, compared to any other curriculums I've ever seen, or any other books I've seen out there offered. So you can head over and check that out, but we're going to go ahead and dive in, and I'm going to share with you a little bit about what the 4th graders have. I'm sorry if there's a little bit of a glare. I don't think there's going to be. I'm trying to do this with some natural lighting because it has been really rainy here, guys. And I was afraid that my lighting would be very reflective. And so we just have an opening page, and you can have your student put their name in here. And then we'll turn over, and it has the table of contents here, and it kind of shows you what all you'll be going over and what pages it's on. Everything is color-coded in this book, which I absolutely love. So you'll notice the grammar and punctuation is green. And as we get into that, it is also green. Let me see if I can show you kind of the side here. So, okay. So we go back there, and again, it just kind of goes through all of those things. The mindful moments are a nice little addition. I'll show you some of those. Like I mentioned, having like the computer science in there, and the social and emotional learning, and then answer key. Which, if you are like me, some of these things we didn't deal a lot with in school. And so sometimes I even have questions. And so it's nice to have that little answer key down there that you can go ahead and check out the answers and make sure that you're correctly helping your students. So you can open this. It's just a quick little note from Evan Moore to you. Sorry, guys. There we go. And here we go. It just goes through just some basic things. Common and proper nouns, proper adjectives, order of adjectives in a sentence, pronouns. So it's just very basic. Every day is a little bit different. So here's fill in the blanks. Here they have to write a little bit more. They're actually going to read the sentence and rewrite it. Here, I believe they're underlining and circling things. So the what they actually have to do is just a little bit different every day. I'll just flip through a few of these pages for you. As you notice, though, every single day is different. So they're not going over the same things repeatedly. It's literally just one worksheet. This would be really good if your to keep on hand if your student is struggling with something. You could pull out this just as an extra worksheet on that particular topic. This, to me, I really am excited about this book, and we are absolutely going to use it. But I think for us, it's going to be better suited as like kind of a summer workbook where they can just pick a couple pages out of the book to kind of do, or over the holidays
those times when we have like a little longer of a break, or maybe on Fridays when we do some fun Friday work, if they want to try and use this instead of their regular curriculums, because I usually make them do a math and a language arts page, and then we do things like cooking or baking, board games, all kinds of things. So, but because none of these topics are repeated, to me it doesn't make a full curriculum per se, because I feel like a student needs more than one page. Maybe your student doesn't though. So, but for summer, I think it would be great to kind of review what went over for the year before we go into the next. Or as if you take a break like we do, we take a break, I guess. We're done in May, and so we take it like an unschooling break, I guess you could say, a deschooling break. And then we will start our summer work. Like, we take the whole month of May pretty much just off with no schoolwork, because we work through our Easter break, and so they haven't had a break since Christmas. So that's usually when we take off, and then we'll get back into summer work. So that would be a good way to do it. This is spelling. And I thought these were really neat. This is for my 3rd/4th grader, but I might even consider buying this book specifically for my 6th grader because of the spelling section. I think this is a really neat way just to add in some fun spelling games. My 6th grader, I said 6th grader. My 5th grader going into 6th grade, she struggles with spelling. That's one of her, not her strengths, and one of her weaknesses in school. And so I do think this would be something that would kind of work well for her. You just see some of the pages here. Again, nice bright pages. Now, they do have, like, even in here, we're working with words that are like in science, so they kind of do set it up by different subject almost. There's a lot of science in this book, a lot of science. And you can see, so here, read the phrase, then write out the word pair that means the same thing as the phrase. The pair needs to be made up of 2 rhyming words. Look at the example: wet poodle, soggy dog. And so they can just go through there. Antonyms, homophones. We've been doing a lot of work with homophones this year. And my dog figured out how to get out of their cage. Sorry. I had put my dogs in their cage because their nails need clipped and they're loud, and they were clipping around behind me when I tried to start this. And so I put them in their cage, but I didn't lock it, and they figured out how to get out. And so then we're into reading. A lot of these are very short excerpts, and then just like fill in the questions and answers. This, I think, would be good for us on a fun Friday, because we don't do a lot of comprehension in our homeschool. And sorry guys, I really have to hold this like almost above my head. And so when it gets a little off kilter like that, it's because I can't see the screen very well and talk to you. But we don't do a whole lot of reading comprehension, and so I think this book would highly benefit us. We've tried some other books, and my kids just get bored with them, and I really think it's because every reading comprehension book I've tried is black and white. That sounds so silly, but color really does draw a student in, and every one we've tried is black and white, and it's set up the same exact way for every single page, and I think that gets a little bit boring for my kids. So this is neat that it's a little bit different. I like that it's going over like the main idea and not just reading comprehension itself. So here we're talking about theme and fiction. I think this really would help with like writing too. You know, those kind of go hand in hand. Learning how to compare and contrast, and just seeing how they compare and contrast helps you figure out how to do it in your own writing. Cause and effect. And down here it shares, if you can see that here, I'll zoom in, like different words to use when you're writing in cause and effect, and words to look for, so like your signal words. Now this one is a little more repetitive, I guess you could say. than the other sections. Like the other section, if it went over pronouns on one page, it was done. There was no more pronoun work. This is kind of building upon each other. So a lot of good stuff in there. Let's see if we can get back here. I like these little yellow sections that kind of give the student a little insight, and the teacher, the parent, a little bit more insight to kind of help them. Let's see, and looking for the color change. There we go. So right after reading is going to come writing. And again, I like that they're not just doing here, write about XYZ on every page. And it's different things that they're learning to write. So here they're learning to write a list. In all honesty, when I think about it, I mean, I have 2 degrees and I haven't written more than like a paragraph per se in quite a long time. Most of the things that we use are paragraphs or emails or short excerpts. We're not writing papers every single day. And so these are more realistic ways that our students are learning to use writing. So writing a list here, this is, imagine you're a chef and you're making an amazing feast. So you need to make a list of the foods that you're going to serve. That is something that we would all do in real life. When you're throwing maybe a birthday party or something, you'll make a list of the foods. When you're doing even your meal plan for the week for your family, you make a list of the foods, the dinners you're going to make, and the foods you're going to need from the grocery store. Write a caption. Write a meme. It's so funny to me to see this in here because I don't know, I'm aging myself, but the internet wasn't even around, so I was like in high school. And so having this in here is just hilarious to me that we're talking about this. But making a meme, my kids can show me how to make one because I still don't know how to make them myself. Writing a silly story. This reminds me of like a Mad Lib, which my kids love to do. That's a really fun way to work on like your nouns and your verbs, those types of things early on. Write a comic. And once you do all of these, you'll be able to maybe tap into a way that your student enjoys writing. I'm hoping that's what's will happen for us because writing is not the favorite subject in my house overall. We're getting much better with it this year finally, but I think it would be neat to see which writing styles they enjoy, and then maybe we can go ahead and build on that. And so I like that this gives so many different kinds in one book. It's not just a prompt book. This section is probably my favorite part of this entire book. A conversation, so using bubbles back and forth. I used to love doing these kind when I was in school. Report on a snail. Story challenge, which I believe the story challenge is, let me see, suppose you were going to write a story or an essay without using the letter E. Answer the questions to plan your writing, then complete the last item. That would be fun. Oh, this would be so neat. Advice to yourself. What would your student tell themselves? So as an adult, I can think of lots of things I would tell my like prior self, my teenage self, my childhood self, my college age, pre-married self. But I think this would be really cool to look inside their mind and what they would say to themselves. Baking, my kids would love to have fun making their own recipe. So just a lot of fun ways to incorporate writing. Writing a song, making a card. My kids have always done cards where they would do like just a bunch of drawing, and my oldest is really getting into writing like paragraphs inside of her cards now, and so I think she might enjoy this part. Like I said, this, you can see I'm spending a little more time on this one. I really enjoyed the writing section of this. Poems, haikus, finish the story. Now, writing a story is more what they're kind of used to and the thing they don't maybe necessarily like, but I think it's neat that they can finish a story opposed to start it. Sometimes starting it's hard. But okay, we've got this far, finish it. Opinion statements. My kids have a lot of, should governments be allowed to ban foods that are unhealthy? So this is kind of political. Should children be allowed to vote in elections? Now that's not as political, but it's neat to get them to think, should students be allowed to use cell phones in a classroom? So getting them to think about like controversial issues of their age. Obviously, they're not dealing with the same things that we as adults are thinking about, but I think that's really neat. They're not just thinking about should kids get recess all day or something silly like that. They're things that are actually they need to put some thought into, and which I think is really okay. And so here we've got kind of some of the stuff that they're more used to that I don't think they necessarily enjoy. But these are the kinds of things I feel like we see in every book. And here we go, writing an opinion text, writing cause and effect, compare and contrast. Here is a letter, which I think is really cool. I want my kids to still learn how to format a letter correctly. We do seem to communicate in short bits still, obviously more over things like email and things like that, but I do think it's important to learn how to form it and put all of the proper parts in the right places. Then we have this mindful moments, which I think is kind of cool. This is definitely something you won't see in any other book, not any that I've seen anyway. And so they just want you to stop and listen and think about yourself, listen to your own thoughts, listen to your own body. And I think that's really important, especially when kids get frustrated with something. And so anytime that they might be frustrated with a page of this, you could bookmark this and kind of come here and just slow down. There is a QR reader here, or you have to have a QR reader, but you can go ahead and use these as well. They have a track that they play for you. Then we head into our math. These are a lot of like fun little games. It's not just problems, like do a bunch of division problems. A lot of them like this. Here we got adding, and you have to find the correct letters, and then they'll solve what's the largest number on the list, what's the smallest number on the list. So it's just simple, fun little games. We go. Now here we do have some word problem type things, but we're just rounding. Super simple, not something that's going to take a lot of time. If you have a student who struggles in math, maybe, but otherwise I know I haven't seen the 5th or 6th grade book for my older student, but my younger student who will be using this book will be just fine. Very basic. I honestly feel like the math is a little bit easy. Mrs. Park has 26 students. She wants to give each one 3 ladybug cookies at the party. How many cookies will she need? So just a basic division problem. So I do feel like these are pretty easy problems for math. Obviously, saw the first page was adding. For me, it's always nice to give them some easy work, though, because it always boosts their self-esteem. And just going over any kind of basic math facts, you use it so much in life, it's important. But I don't think that too much of this is very difficult. So I think it's pretty basic. If I would have chosen any part to be a little bit harder, it might be this. But in all honesty, I guess if we're using it as summer work, my student would prefer it be easy. So here we go. I will say the daughter who will be using this is in both 3rd and 4th grade curriculums. She is in a 3rd grade math curriculum, and I feel like she could do most of this. Now, it might depend on what curriculum you use. She is using Horizons, but I feel like she would be able to do most of this now on the 4th grade level. So that just gives you some of the pages, and then let's flip ahead. Sorry, I should have probably bookmarked these. But I've been waiting for a decent day where I could actually have any light to do this. and I didn't think to do it. So here we go. Our next section is computer science. Now, this is the section, it sounds so silly, but this is the section that, as an adult, I will probably need the answer key to. So here we go. We're going over some coding, algorithms, and computers. Not something I'm really great at. Computers themselves, yes. Coding and algorithms, no way. So it does go through the text here, and then you're going to answer some items over here based on that information. And so I have a feeling this is, not that it's so hard for my student, but I do feel like she's going to learn a lot from this. I don't feel like she's going to learn anything from the math, if that makes sense. I do feel like she's going to gather new information from this book in particular. So if you're not somebody who does things like coding in your current homeschool, this might be a nice little way to break them into it. Again, going into algorithms. When the computer does a task or solves a problem, the computer must be prepared for all of the possibilities. A coder must think of all the possibilities when writing a code in an algorithm, read the paragraph, and answer the item. So a lot of just reading little things, but just short little excerpts. We don't have big things kind of like we did back in the writing section to read here. And you see, while it might be slightly different, we're still going over algorithms repeatedly, so it's not something that's changing consistently like back in the language arts section. Loops. I'm very excited to use this part. We might actually, I'm not sure if I'm going to save this for summer work, but I'm probably going to have them start this computer science part pretty soon. She did ask for the Usborne coding book for Christmas, so I think she may be at least interested in it, and I don't have the education to really help her succeed in that without any support of other materials. So I could teach multiplication without another book, but I'm going to need information to share with that. So that is probably the shortest section. Let's see, about 217 to 230. So you can see there's not a lot of pages on that, but I do think it's a nice little section that just gives you some basic information. If that, like I said, if that's something that you aren't already into, it's probably a really good start for you. And then the next section we're going to take us into is science. And this is just some basic different subject things. So here is energy, and we'll have some pages on that. We get into reflections and sound waves. There are some things that are like experiment based, and then there's things that are just simply reading and answering the questions. I do like that they involve experiments in this because some kids are very hands-on. That would be really good for my youngest. He likes to be hands-on. And actually, let me see. I did read over this, but it's been a minute. So, yeah. So I thought so, but I wanted to make sure. So here, what are you doing? You're placing the palms of your hands inside each of the bowl, pan, or plate for about 10 seconds. The metal should feel colder than the plastic. Place an ice cube in each container and see which one melts faster. And so it's really something basic that she can do on her own, which is important to me. I know that sounds silly, but I am not a super hands-on person. When it comes to science, I don't enjoy the experiments. I will do them with my kids, but it's not something I particularly enjoy. And so I love the fact that they've added in experiments that are pretty easy that they can do themselves. Now, I don't know if you look in like the kindergarten or first grade book, if that would be the case. You'd have to kind of flip through maybe on theirs or check out, I don't know who the person is, but if you look up the top student kindergarten review, there will be somebody reviewing it, and they might share about that in their review if you have a younger student. So here we go. Food is energy. How true is that? And so we've got a lot of energy information in here. Now here we go into plants and animals. plant structures, animal structures. This will be the science my kids enjoy a little bit more. They don't really care for things like energy, but things that have to do with more nature relation, they do. And then we have some fun stuff. No, that is not dirt, people. I don't know what that is. It's like a black dot. I guess it's the place where you can start drawing. When I turned it, I'm like, what did I get on the book? But I didn't. Create your own animal. We just did something similar to this, and I can't remember which kiddo did it. Actually, it was this one. She did it in another book. She had to create an insect, and so she really enjoyed that. But this goes a little more in depth. It goes through like the habitat and the diet. You're not just creating what it looks like, but all of its abilities and naming it. That's really neat. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. Now, Evan Moor is not a Christian-based book, so depending on where you fall, sometimes you need to watch the science stuff. We do use science from Evan Moor in our regular curriculum, and I do know that there's been sections we've had to check, so I can't speak to every grade level in this, but I will encourage you that if you are a Christian home and you are particular about some of the things that you teach in science, you may want to check out the pages before you do a go ahead and share them with your students. So I don't think I noticed anything in this particular 4th grade book, but I do know in our current science book we had to skip some things. So then here we go into the STEM section and working with a stethoscope to hear sounds, how a megaphone makes sounds, and how the end of the bell of the instrument helps project the sounds. Here we go. Sorry guys, a little bit more of a hands-on again. Here it gives you some materials so you can see they're very basic things. Most of these things you're probably going to have in your house. Like, I guess you may not have clay if you guys don't do a lot of projects or art experiments. I know for us, we don't get a whole lot in cans, so I would have to like prepare ahead of time to keep a tin can, because it's not something we use very often, maybe a couple times every 6 weeks or so. But they're basic things. They're not things that you're going to have to really go out and spend a lot of money on, which I like that. And then it just gives you some basic information. Apparently I need a drink because my voice is sounding off. Here we go. The whole process to go through. And you're supposed to be designing it and testing it, evaluating it to see how you can improve it. And then over here you can go ahead and redesign it, change what didn't work, and then revise it again and test it and evaluate it. So here is a thermometer section. I've actually just been working on thermometers a little bit with my daughter. And again, another experiment, hands-on, pretty good, as far as having things around the house, plastic bottles, straws, food coloring. None of these things are super expensive or things that you would have to spend a lot of time or money on, which some of the experiment books I feel like I find are things that I wouldn't keep in the house typically. So for me, like I said, the thing that I think is clay that some people might not have around, but otherwise everybody has spoons and a ruler, markers, pretty normal things. And again, it's going to go through the same process. So it gives you some information on what you're doing, your experiment, all of the supplies you need are right there for you listed out so mom or dad can look ahead of time and then go through your design process, let them try it out, see how they can try and fix it, and try it out again. So this was a pretty neat section. I'll just show you roller coaster. So every section's obviously like 3-page. Box alarm. I think my son would really enjoy doing this one. This will be a section that Daddy will probably help with more. Something they would enjoy doing with him, working with things like circuits. So there you go. And then we'll do social studies. So for your hands-on learner, some of these science sections are pretty neat. Okay, and these are pretty basic for the social studies. It's just read and answer quite a bit. Reading, filling in. But we do a lot of history, I noticed. I never even realized that we just don't do like some of the social studies aspects that we did when I was in school, because we do a lot of history in our schooling, and so in our personal family. And so I thought this was kind of neat. Hieroglyphics, we just did Egypt before Christmas, and we did some of this, so that was cool. How things change, past, present, and future. Let's go, inventions. Again, while it is historical, it is also science. Kinds of governments. So if I knew this was in every book, I would get this type of thing so that we could go over. I'm going to have to go and watch the other reviews. But it does go over like the Bill of Rights and the government. And I think this would be a really neat thing to use as we're coming into an election year here. Obviously every year is an election year to a point, but going over just some of those things with the big election coming and having them help them understand how some of the government actually works. Immigrants, we just went to a showing on Ellis Island, and it was awesome. My kids really enjoyed it, so my daughter is going to enjoy doing that, I'm sure. And talking about your family story, again, immigration is always a big topic, and so this kind of even works into that. If you guys are talking about topics kind of on their level and how important how your family may feel about those subjects. A totem pole, this is going to be a lot of fun. Paper towel holder, and you just are coloring these and cutting this. I might actually make copies of this for all of my students to do, because I think that would be really neat. Okay. Again, another section of mindful moments. This is track 2. There are 2 pages of this, but you could bookmark them and turn to these pages anytime you think that your student might need them. And you could even do that for when you're not working in this particular book. If your student's getting frustrated with another book, it might be a good tool to just keep and pull out and use. I might, well, it's on the back of this, so I don't know if I will. Maybe after we do this, I might pull these out and put them back to back and put them in a lamination pocket, and then we'll be able to just use them. I've never done that. Has anybody ever laminated these? Does it screw up the QR reader? If you guys know, drop a comment down below. I'd be interested to find out. So that might be what I do with these, I think, once she's done these pages, because I think it'd be something, just a nice tool to have on hand to use. And then social and emotional learning. Something I have not seen in any book. Something that makes this book, in my opinion, stand out from every other book that I've gone through is that it has social and emotional learning, which is something that is really key in working with our kids, but I think it's easily overlooked. And so here's just some things about working on how to interact, making responsible decisions, which is so important at any age, but these just opens up some discussion that you can have with your child. Making a relationship map. And the older they get, they kind of are, their center of influence is growing. It's no longer just mom and dad or grandma and grandpa. It's really other people. And so going over that relationship map and showing them who is influencing them, and choosing which people are good influences perhaps and which people are not particularly great influences. Again, wakes it up for a great discussion. Mindfulness and behavior. Like this, what I look like when I feel sick, what I look like when I feel well rested. How important is it to be well rested and to take care of your body? Observing. Write about a time you reflected on your actions and you felt you overreacted or got more angry than you should have. Describe what happened in detail. You could even do these questions out loud so that next time, maybe you could come back and work over these again. Things like, social studies or pronouns. I don't know. I feel like those types of things, you go back there, you fill that stuff out and you're done. But I think our students are always, and our kids are always changing. And so this lends itself to be able to be used over and over again. Again, something I might consider putting in like a binder with like a lamination pouch or something that we could do this, or we could just do it aloud so that we can do it repeatedly. UUU Magazine, an exclusive interview. Imagine that you are on the cover of a magazine and you are published with an interview of this month's issue. Readers everywhere want to know about you. Complete each step to create the magazine. So here we're back to learning how to use our bubbles and how to reply about ourselves to the questions that they're asking. Being a hero. Now, what makes a hero? This gives you an opportunity to discuss what makes a hero. It's not always heroes are everyday people. And so I think that would be a great, the gentleman who held the door and helped the elderly lady carry her groceries to the car or something like that. So I think this would be a great time to be able to spot and discuss everyday heroes in your everyday life, opposed to just, Superman or even firemen or something like that. I think kids notice that a lot, but they don't always necessarily notice the everyday heroes in our lives. Appreciation slips. And then the answer key. So like I said, I discussed this. Do you necessarily need the answer key for working on pronouns or punctuation? No. Do you need the answer key for something like the STEM related or computer related science stuff? Perhaps. And so this does have that in there for you. And that's the end of the book.
And so that's a look inside the top student. Like I said, this is grade 4. It does have various other grades. So if this is not the grade your student is in, it will give you an idea. But there are other reviews, I'm sure, out there that you can check out, as well as you can always head over to the Evan Moor website. I will go ahead and drop my link down below. It is an affiliate link, so I will receive credit if you do purchase through that. If that bothers you, you're welcome to go ahead and just search on their site for it. So until next time, I'll see you guys all later. Bye.